Hey everybody, and welcome to Today Matters. My name is Jeremy, and I gotta be honest, for a children's pastor like myself, this is kind of crazy season. You know, we've got kids promoting to new grades in our ministry. We're a couple weeks away from a VBS where we've got more kids coming than ever before, and even on a personal level, there's a lot going on. My wife is studying for her boards exam where she is going to become a licensed physical therapist. We're also planning a second wedding because our first wedding was totally ruined by COVID. And in the O'Neill household, there's a lot going on. And if I'm just being transparent here with you, it can be kind of hard. It feels a little bit frantic right now. And in this moment, I'm reminded that even when life gets a little crazy, we got to stay focused on the most important things. You see, everything else around us might be going crazy, but we don't have to go crazy ourselves. So today I want to tell you about something that I shared with our kids ministry staff in one of our very first meetings together. You see, every time we get our team together, I always want to talk about a way that we can grow, something in our leadership, something in our faith. And the very first thing I talked about was a skill that I think is make or break for a leader, especially in kids ministry. It's the difference between an average leader and an exceptional leader. That thing is poise. See, some people might refer to it as composure, but I love the word poise. Poise means calm under pressure. It means you're cool, calm, and collected no matter what is going on around you. Think about it this way, right? What happens when a volunteer shows up late and we're struggling to open a room? How do you respond? What happens when the check-in system goes down and you don't know what to do? How do you respond? What happens when someone gives you bad news right before service starts? How do you respond? You see, poise is a choice. Poise has nothing to do with what happens around you. It has everything to do with your perspective and how you respond to it. And here's the best part about poise. It's a skill you can grow in. It's not something you're born with or something you either have or you don't have. Poise is something you can develop. Let me give you an example of extreme poise. Now, some years ago in the NFL Super Bowl, there's a story about a football legend named Joe Montana. I'm sorry, Chargers fans, but I'm going to talk about the 49ers for a second here. This is the biggest game of their life. It's the Super Bowl. This is the last game of the season. It's win or go home. The stakes could not be higher, and the 49ers are losing at the very end of the game. They've got one last drive to win the game. And as the team gets into the huddle, the offense gets into the huddle, Joe Montana looks into the crowd and he points to a guy and he said, Is that actor John Candy? Now, his teammates look at him in disbelief, thinking, how in the world are you thinking about who's in the stands in such a big moment like this? In that moment, the team loosened up. They knew, hey, listen, our quarterback, he's not overcome by the moment. It's not too big for him. You know what they did? They went all the way down the field, they scored, and they won the game. That's poise. See, it had nothing to do with all of the things going on around Joe Montana or his team. It took poise and focus. Now, I shared with our team in that first meeting that there are 3 things you can do to grow in poise. Number 1 is get experience. See, there's something powerful about being faced with a challenge and being able to tell yourself, I've been here before. I've overcome this challenge in the past and I can overcome it again. There's something powerful about experience, and sometimes that just takes time. You got to get reps in. Experience helps you develop poise. Number 2 is your level of preparedness. Are you showing up prepared for whatever it is that you're about to do? Are you showing up prepared at work? Are you showing up prepared at church when you're about to volunteer something? Are you prepared for a tough conversation you're going to have with someone in your life who's really important to you? See, all of those things are helpful to develop poise, but there's one thing that's more important than all of that, and that is perspective. See, this is where I want to camp out in today's devotional. I want to talk about how perspective helps us develop poise so that no matter what goes on around us, we can stay focused on the most important thing. In 2 Kings chapter 6, we talk about a prophet named Elisha. And in this story, God is sharing messages with the prophet Elijah about what the enemy army is doing. The enemy army finally catches on to the fact that this prophet is sabotaging all of their efforts to overcome God's people. So you know what they do? They surround him. Let's take a look in 2 Kings chapter 6, verse 14. It says, "So one night the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to surround the city." Now this is the city where Elisha is staying. Verse 15, "When the servant of the man of God got up early the next morning and went outside, there were troops, horses and chariots everywhere. 'Oh, sir, what will we do now?' the young man cried to Elijah." You ever been here? Something big is in front of you and you think to yourself, what will we do now? What will I do now? Here's what Elisha said. Verse 16, "Don't be afraid," Elisha told him, "for there are more on our side than on theirs." To which the young man looked at him and said, "You're crazy. You crazy old prophet. Don't you see this huge army that's surrounding all of us? We don't outnumber them. What are you talking about?" Verse 17, "Then Elisha prayed, 'O Lord, open his eyes and let him see.' So the Lord opened the young man's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw that the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire." You know what he saw? He saw God's army. See, when Elisha walked out of the tent, he didn't see the enemy army and how big they were. He saw God's army and how big they were. Which army are you looking at today? Are you looking at the army in your life, all the things, all the obstacles in front of you, the responsibilities you have, the challenges you face? Or are you looking at how big your God is? You see, you can either look at how big your problems are, or you can look at how big your God is. See, that's the most important thing to help us develop poise, to help us be composed. You see, when things happen in our life that we can't control, we have a God who is in control. So no matter where you are, as you're watching this video, no matter what problems you're facing, how big your challenges are, remember that your God is bigger.